Hello, everyone. Olin Giles here with Why Christianity. Welcome back to the Bible or Bukhari. Today, we will be looking at Volume 1, Book 2, and Hadith number 36. This section begins by saying, Holy fighting in Allah's cause is a part of faith. Now, if you've been watching the previous videos, you know that Book 2 is titled The Book of Belief. So, this hadith is about the traditional sayings of Muhammad, instructing them on what it means to have faith in Allah and His Messenger. And you know, if you've ever tried to discuss jihad with a Muslim, you know that they just absolutely cannot have that discussion without talking about Christianity. You want to talk about jihad and the inherent violent nature of Islam, and they immediately go to the Old Testament writings, or occasionally they will twist a New Testament verse to fit what they believe Christianity teaches. So, real quickly, I want to give you three reasons Christianity is not inherently violent, but Islam is. Number one, Jesus never killed anyone, but Muhammad did. Jesus killed some pigs in a fig tree, but he never killed a human being. In fact, Jesus told Peter to put away his sword in Matthew 26:52, saying, Those who live by the sword will die by the sword. John 14:27, he says, Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give as the world gives. Even while hanging on the cross, he had no desire for revenge, no desire to harm anyone, but instead he says, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Muhammad, on the other hand, said that Allah is the one who causes a person to fight holy battles. That's what this hadith tells us. And it goes on to say that he would have, that is, Muhammad would have loved to have been martyred in Allah's cause and then made alive and then again martyred in his cause. Surah 9:29 says to fight those who believe not in Allah. Surah 47:4, when you meet those who disbelieve, strike their necks. Muhammad is radically different from Jesus. So it doesn't matter how peaceful your Muslim neighbor is or what a wonderful experience you had with a Muslim somewhere. Muslims do not define Islam. Muhammad does. In the same way, Jesus Christ defines what it means to be a Christian. Both Christians and Muslims can misrepresent their respective belief systems. So we really do have to look at the book and the man, the Bible and Jesus, the Quran and Muhammad. That is what defines those two religions. But secondly, I would say that the Old Testament violence is very specific, but Muhammad was vague. If you try to discuss, again, this problem of jihad with a Muslim, all of a sudden they want to have a Bible study. It's amazing. They cannot defend jihad without talking about the Old Testament. And notice that the Old Testament speaks precisely about a particular people at a very specific place. It's not vague. Numbers 31 is about the children of Israel and the Midianites. 1 Kings 18 is about Israel and the prophets of Baal. Joshua 10 is about Israel and the Amorites. And the list goes on and on and on. Yet, Muhammad and the Quran speak in a very broad, vague, and open-ended way. Contextually, the Quran emphasizes, not a person or a place, but it emphasizes jihad within the context of unbelievers, pagans, or polytheists. Rarely does it mention a specific place or group of people. And unlike the Bible, the violent verses of the Quran come later and they abrogate the earlier verses that are peaceful. For example, there is no compulsion in religion from Surah 256. We've all heard that one. The bottom line here is that the world today does not have a problem with Christians carrying out jihad in the name of Yahweh, but we do have a problem with Islamic jihad. And then lastly, number 3, the Bible is descriptive at times, while the Quran is a book of commands. It's, you could say, prescriptive. It tells you what you should do, one command right after the other. But not everything in the Bible is a command. It simply describes the good, bad, and the downright ugly. For example, David committed adultery with Bathsheba and then he killed her husband. These are descriptions of man's sinful behavior, and they are to be judged on the basis of God's commands. That is, thou shalt not murder and thou shalt not commit adultery. Another more difficult passage is Psalms 137:9, which says, happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. If we look at the context of this passage, it's about Babylon and really the desire for revenge, to repay them according to what they have done to us, is what 137:8 says. But there's no indication here that this is a command. It's simply describing how the Jews responded to the way the Babylonians treated them. Here again, if we go back to the Quran, we see that it's different. It's a book filled with commands. The word Quran itself means to recite or recitation. And Surah 2:285 says that we hear and we obey. It gives or it reveals supposedly the will of Allah, inshallah. And of course, a Muslim is one who submits. They don't necessarily study it or question it, but they submit and obey the word of Allah. So is it any surprise that we have a 1400-year history of Muslims carrying out violence in the name of Allah? Is it any surprise that Muhammad himself participated in 9 different battles and killed innocent men and women just for merely insulting him? Yet Jesus never killed anyone, nor did he lead an army in a physical battle. So I hope these 3 differences will help you. They're certainly not an exhaustive list by any means, but they do sufficiently demonstrate that Islam is inherently violent and Christianity is not.